Endometriosis is a disease that affects 1 in 10 women, typically diagnosed in their late teens or in their early 20s when they've had enough of a menstrual history to know that something's just not right. It causes pain all the time, or pain during sex, or pain when you menstruate. The menstrual period can be too long, too short, can be totally absent. It can be too heavy or too light, but it often also causes infertility. The search for endometriosis is a search that takes a while because you can't see endometriosis on a typical ultrasound, and there's no blood test for endometriosis. In fact, although there are some newer imaging modalities and new minimally invasive techniques, which you can learn more about in the link below. Excellent video put together by some OB-GYNs at NYU Langone who treat endometriosis all the time. But interestingly, the more specialized you are, the more you know about this one thing you do, but it's still important to see the big picture and how that one disease has something in common with so many other diseases. So let's talk about endometriosis. We know that retrograde menstruation is the term they use to describe the menstrual fluid flowing not out the body once a month the way it should, but sometimes backflow. The muscular contractions, the waves of peristalsis that are supposed to squeeze and pump those little bits of tissue and blood out of the body once a month to cleanse and rejuvenate reproductive anatomy to prepare for next month, just don't work properly for one reason or another. This is why the endometrial tissue, tiny little pockets of tissue that come from your body, end up lodged in places where they don't belong. Whether it's in the fallopian tubes or the ovaries, attached to the rectum or the bladder, in the peritoneum, in the abdomen, creating adhesions so that the intestines become stuck together, causing bladder symptoms or bowel symptoms, is a diagnosis that is only made by surgical visualization of the tissues themselves. So laparoscopic procedure, typically 3 small cuts in the tummy. One of those is for cutting, one of them is for grabbing, and the other is a camera so that you can see what you're looking at. And looking inside the abdomen on a screen, visualizing endometriosis, seeing how much of it there is, where it is the only way to not only confirm that you have it, but stage it and plan for treatment. One of the most important treatments for endometriosis is hormones. And that's because the tissues that deposit in these places are sensitive to hormones. They are reproductive tissues. They respond to estrogen and, more significantly, to progesterone. And so taking a birth control-like regimen can suppress the symptoms that are caused by endometriosis. It can make the lesions less inflamed because they're less responsive to the hormones in your body. Now, it's important to know that hormones do work sometimes, although I wouldn't say they work often. There's a high dissatisfaction rate with many of the treatments for endometriosis because there's a high dissatisfaction rate with hormonal therapy. And that's to be expected because the body adapts to anything you do to it. And although sometimes hormones work really well and they're certainly worth a try, in many cases women take the next step, which is to remove the lesions. Now, this can be done with a laser or it can be done with a knife, and there are studies comparing the two. There's no clear consensus which is best. As always with a surgery, a lot of the outcome depends on the skill and the performance of the surgeon, both in general and more specifically on that day. So working with a surgeon who does a lot of this is the best general rule of thumb. The more someone does something, the better they'll be at it. So while I can't advise any one person on any one path, it's important to explore hormones, explore surgery, and take these decisions mindfully, one by one. If the first thing doesn't work, move on to the next thing. And while some women will have repeat excision and laser procedures to remove endometriosis as it evolves, maybe cleanup of several lesions during a first procedure and then maybe another procedure down the road. In some cases, women choose a total hysterectomy as a more decisive treatment. Very rarely do the ovaries have to be removed at the same time as the uterus, but that's considered the sort of end of the road in terms of what a surgeon can offer a patient with endometriosis. Now, that's not necessarily the only treatment that's available. Of course, there are many other approaches to treating endometriosis that have been explored. And because Chrissy Teigen is Thai and because her and her mother have published cookbooks, I thought about starting with curcumin as a treatment to explore. But I think in terms of endometriosis, the better rule of thumb is that no one person will respond to every intervention. And when it comes to food, different people respond to different diets. And this is the principle that we'll explore when we dive into food as medicine. But just to touch on curcumin, I think for anyone who is interested in reducing inflammation in their bodies, whether you're a man or a woman, whether you're struggling with endometriosis or inflammatory bowel disease or arthritis or a skin condition, wherever there is inflammation in your body, it's worthwhile to explore a trial of curcumin, because curcumin, which is one ingredient in the turmeric root, is a powerful anti-inflammatory. There's no doubt about it. And traditionally, turmeric root has been used as a medicine, as much as a spice. And in Ayurvedic medicine, the medicine of India, there's very little difference between food and medicine, because no matter what's wrong with you, part of the treatment is to modify your diet. So there is a recipe called golden milk, which you can find online anywhere. This particular one is pulled from the website of another influencer who had endometriosis, and in this case was a high-powered healthcare executive, left her type A lifestyle to teach women, again, how to focus on minimalism and simplicity and embrace mindfulness, not just in their meal preparation, but in their approach to their lives. So I highly recommend her website and her recipes. This recipe for golden milk includes milk and turmeric, of course, because those are the two main ingredients. But there's a little bit of maple syrup or honey that can be added, and black pepper, which is so important. The cinnamon is nice, it's mostly for flavor, but without black pepper, you will find it much less effective to eat turmeric as a medicine. And that's because black pepper contains an ingredient called piperine. And piperine binds to a receptor in your gut that allows it to absorb turmeric. And that means that when you take a little bit of black pepper and add it to your golden milk, you will get about 1,000 times more turmeric entering your bloodstream. So this one recipe is something that you can try every evening before bed. Warm milk is also nice as a sedative. And I would try it for at least a month, preferably 3, before deciding how much of an impact it has had on your endometriosis. And this way of understanding how to treat endometriosis just focuses on the inflammation part. Now, you see, endometriosis is obviously related to more than just inflammation. It's related to hormones. That's why we use hormones to calm it down. But the interesting question is not why is the endometrial tissue in the wrong place, but rather, why is it causing problems? Because you see, many studies have shown that there are maybe just as many people who have endometrial tissue in places that it doesn't belong, with endometriosis and without endometriosis. In much the same way that strep can live in your throat without causing strep throat, and many people who have H. pylori living in their stomach don't have an ulcer. We're not sure why some people with endometrial tissue throughout their pelvis and abdomen don't have endometriosis, or why some are much more inflamed than others. Now, the theory of why endometriosis is in the wrong place in the first place was developed about a century ago, and it's called retrograde menstruation. Dr. Sampson, one of the pioneers of this disease, a pioneering gynecologist who practiced in the early 20th century, first coined the term retrograde menstruation. And this theory has been dominant for decades. But it doesn't explain how endometriosis can appear in other areas, really far away from the reproductive anatomy itself. And so some have suggested that it might spread in the bloodstream, and that's really the only way it could be explained, to be found in the thorax, in the chest. But there's another theory called lymphatic spread, which is interesting because when I think of blockage-based care, I think a lot about the lymphatic system, because stress and the flow of lymph and the flow of qi are all very related concepts in this East-West medical paradigm. And it's important to note that the ovaries have a different pathway for lymphatic drainage than the uterus and the fallopian tubes. So if endometrial tissue started farther from the midline, it could travel up into the chest, whereas most of the endometriosis that's in the midline of the body would get lodged in one of the places where it's typically found.